Hello students, welcome to Btech360. Last week, the VITEEE results have come out, and a lot of parents have been reaching out to us to understand what they must do based on that, because there are 4 complications out there. 1 is the branch, 2 is the campus, 3 is the tier, and then you have group A and group B. So there are 4 variables that students are dealing with, and the question that students are asking is what should they do and at what price should they pay and get into any of the VIT campuses. For that, we are actually making some kind of number crunching for you. Please watch us very, very carefully, because it will tell you or give you an idea of what you must be doing at a VITEE level counseling, right? Before I move further, my small request I always have for you is please subscribe to Btech360. It's very important for us, right? Now let's talk of VITEE, the counseling. What should you do? That's the question that we're trying to understand. For this, listen, all of you now actually have your score in your hand, possibly rank in your hand, and then you also know the only thing that you are waiting for is what category you will get, what branch you will get, what campus you will get, and what tier or what kind of fee that you must pay. These are 4 big variables now we're dealing with. The score and rank is something that you already have in your hand. Now, with that being the backdrop, what is it that you should be looking for? The only way I can deal with that is to understand how many students actually join VITEE, which campus how many students join in, what kind of placements happen at a campus level, and what kind of a placement does at a branch level does it happen. These are the questions that we're trying to work on, which is branch level placement, campus level placement, we'll talk of placements only, campus level, branch level, and at fee. What is the tier of the fees that you're dealing with? Now, these 2 is obviously placement, and this will determine the ROI, because obviously what you pay and what you get, that's how you calculate the ROI. So let's understand these 3 things at this point in time with whatever data we can muster, whatever data we can gather. Let me warn you that while we were working on this, the data was very scarce, and when we tried to ask for it, there was a bit of resistance in terms of sharing data. But having said that, we do know some data that's available in different pockets, so we reached out to some regulators and got whatever data we could. Some of them is dated, some of them is for the previous year, and so on and so forth. But it still gives you some kind of an idea. As far as we know, over the past many years that what we have seen, the best placement that happened is in 23-24. 24-25 onwards, the placements have been falling a bit year on year. It can be in IITs or NITs or IIITs or whatever. The median salary has been falling. If you remove the top 3-4, by the way, and at the same time, the number of placements that are happening also has been falling. That's what we noticed over the last couple of years. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with this data. Now, what are the campuses that we're dealing with? We're dealing with Vellore, which is of course the mother campus. It's a deemed university. VIT Chennai is an off-campus of this deemed university. So both of them are the same. Both these are the same. It's VIT Vellore. Now this VIT Chennai being a off-campus of VIT Vellore because it's in the same jurisdiction, which is Tamil Nadu, right? VIT Amravati in Andhra Pradesh is a separate university. It's a state private university. That's a deemed university. There's a state private university. And VIT Bhopal again is a state private university from the state of Madhya Pradesh. So these are state private universities, 2 separate state private universities. That is a deemed university. And the rank that you see in NRF and every other agency is this particular one. We still don't have any number for Amravati or Bhopal. Now let's move further to the next level. The last data that we could gather is from the NRF filing that VIT Vellore has filed with the Government of India, Ministry of Education, Government of India. Now this is the thing, they filed with National Institutional Ranking Framework, Ministry of Education, Government of India. So this is the last data that we could actually get. This was filed about a month back. This has data for the 24-25 cycle. We still don't have data for the 25-26 cycle, but we have data for the 24-25 cycle. Now again, remember, 23-24 is what I know, as far as I know when I track data, which has the best placement numbers, because since then, the median salary and the number of people that are getting placed is slowly coming down, is what we noticed. It can be small fraction, it's definitely not increasing, is something that we can vouch for. And obviously it runs from the fact that, all the ITS companies are now trying to be a bit more careful and, very conservative in terms of having a bench strength also. Only when they want them, they take them and so on and so forth, right? So 24-25 data is what we have. In 24-25, which is corresponding to the year 21-22 when the admission happened. Remember, the admission happened at 12,873. in 21-22, number of first year students admitted in the year was 12,873. And those people graduated in 24-25, which is 11,913. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about 900 students who are not even graduating. 12,873 and 11,913 is the number of students who graduated, which means about 93-94% is what we saw as graduation. Of this 11,913, the number of students who were placed was 7,023. Now you work backwards. 7,023 by 11,913 is the percentage of placement that you have, right? That's the kind of placement that you have, which you convert back. We're dealing with about 63% placement, 62 to 63% placement, right? Now this is from the number of students who graduated. If you now take it from the number of students who admitted, the number changes dramatically, because then you're dealing with less than 60% kind of a placement from the number of students who graduated. But there's another metric also here, which is about 1,660 students, VIT University claims, has moved on for higher studies, which means that they did not want to stop here. They wanted to move up the ladder in terms of pursuing higher education also, which is post-graduation. If you have to remove that, then the percentage of placement goes up dramatically, because from 11,913 you remove 1,660. What you're left with is about 10,300. From there, 7,000 placement. You're dealing with about 69-70% placement. So various numbers we're talking of. If you deal with the number of students admitted, it's less than 60%. If you deal with number of students who graduated and not taken it, you're only dealing with 63%. But if you deal with removing the higher education, then we're dealing with about close to 70% placement. That is the kind of numbers that we're dealing with. Now, what is the median salary? So what are we dealing with here? Even the best case situation, what you're dealing with is about 70% kind of a placement is what we're looking at, right? And what is the median salary? Again, for 24-25 batch, where 11,913 students graduated and 7,023 students actually were placed, the median salary here was 6 lakh rupees. The median salary was 6 lakh rupees, right? So what we're dealing with here is now very clearly 11,913 minus 1,660, which is about 10,300, 7,000 placed, which is about 68-69% placed at 6 lakh rupees median salary, and about 30-31% students not getting placed also. That is the data that we're dealing with. Now, why does this happen when you deal with 6 lakh median salary and all those things? Why does this happen? That's because when a lot of placements happen at the ITES services companies, right, which is the Infosys, the TCS, the Wipro, the Accenture, the Genpact, and so on and so forth, the typical placement that you are going to get is about 3.5 lakh rupees. And when you actually place a bulk of the students in these companies, your median obviously falls. And what we notice increasingly is that a bulk of the students who are getting into the Btech are getting placed in these companies, because of which at some level, if you ask me personally, it would not be surprising for me that when an institution were to place 100%, claim 100% placement, the median salary would be about 3.3 lakh rupees. That's because more than half the students that are getting into these institutions increasingly are getting placed in these companies only because they hire in bulk, they hire at scale, and they hire in hundreds and thousands. And when you actually have a relationship with them where you're actually placing students in those companies only, your median salary, because more than half are getting placed into those kind of companies, your median salary is bound to fall, right? So either the simple thing that I look at these numbers and say, either we are talking of about 70% placement at 6 lakh rupees, or if you're looking at 9 lakh rupees, if you're looking at 90% kind of a placement, then this median salary is bound to fall. There's another thing also I noticed here, by the way, that I should be telling you, because it's very important for you to understand this data. Now, if you look at this very carefully, in the year 22-23, the number of students who graduated is 7,053, 7053. In the year 23-24, it fell to 5,964, which is not possible, which means some numbers were excluded here. And then there was some correction that was made where it was 11,913. So what I personally think is this 7,053 in the following year should have been close to 9,000. Then this 11,913 makes sense. And remember, even this 11,913 are people who got into the college in 21-22. In our estimate, at this point in time, in VIT Vellore and Chennai campus put together, you'll have an intake about 14,000-15,000 students. 14,000-15,000 students for Btech. That's our estimate, because we see this number of 12,873 4 years back, and we also have a regular feel of what is happening there, we do think it's about 15,000 would be the kind of intake, 14 to 15,000. Now, when you look at that number, there seems to be some kind of a, the trend is not correct here. Something happened in this particular year which made the median salary of 8.99 lakh rupees also being questioned and challenged. And that is what we notice here. So what did we do? We tried to corroborate that with any other information that's out there, because this is one document that we have where the institution itself, the university itself, has filed a document with the Ministry of Education, Government of India. And by the way, remember, this is only for VIT Vellore and Chennai campus, and we don't have data for Bhopal and Amravati yet. We're not still having a data for VIT Andhra Pradesh or VIT Bhopal. Now let's look at what's the other data that we have. Then we went to AICTE, which is All India Council for Technical Education, which is another regulator where all the deemed universities file data of the kind of intake that they would want to take, and the AICTE gives them approval for that. Now there we found data for only 24-25. We found data for the year 24-25, corresponding to the year where the 12,000 students graduated, 11,900 students graduated. In that year, what is the kind of intake we try to get? And we could get only for Vellore and not for Chennai, by the way, here. And in Vellore, the total intake, these are the kind of branches that we have. By the way, this is how it works, right? Sir, online application for the institution submitted to extension of approval for the academic year 24-25. In terms of the provisions under the AICTE powers delegated to Regulator, I am directed to convey the approval to. So this is the kind of approval that they got. AICTE gave an approval to VIT University to start these programs or continue these programs, with this being the sanctioned intake. So for example, in MCA it is 240, BCA it is 240, and so on and so forth. You actually have this being the approval given by AICTE for the undergrad programs at VIT University Vellore, because this is addressed to the government of Tamil Nadu, and this is what was approved by AICTE. When I look at that data, the total seats that were approved for Vellore alone, by the way, not for Chennai, is 4,440 based on AICTE. Remember that? So initially I told you about NIRF and what they submitted to Government of India. Now I'm talking of AICTE, which is 4,440 seats is what was approved by AICTE for the Vellore campus. But very clearly what we know is that when we look at it, by the way, this 24-25, 25-26 is different, and we're now dealing with something else. So the numbers would be dramatically higher is what our estimate is. But coming back to it, it's about 4,440 for Vellore, 24-25. Now this for Chennai, this 3,480. So between the two of them, we're talking of 8,000 seats is what AICTE claims is the, by the way, this seat matrix is for Chennai for 25-26. So for Chennai, we don't have the 24-25, but we have for 25-26. Here we're talking of 3,480 or 3,500. There it might have increased to about 5,000, let's assume for a moment. So AICTE data is slightly different as compared to NIRF data that they themselves submitted. Now, I know it's very, very confusing, but all I can do at this point in time is to present data as it comes to us so that you can make your own sense. We're dealing with a situation where the data is slightly scarce and slightly all over the place. But the best I could do is to present data as it comes to me so that you get some kind of a feel of the whole thing. Because again, I repeat, for the last 2-3 years, the placement numbers haven't changed from the company side of it. The intake by the institutions would have changed up and down. Sanctioned by the AICTE would be pretty easy for these kind of universities. So whatever they ask for as sanction, they would normally get that. So based on that, we're talking about these numbers, right? Now, so that's the thing that we're dealing with. AICTE talking about 8,000 numbers. The university itself talking about 12,000 numbers being the intake in 4 years back. And in our opinion, it's about 15,000 numbers is what they're recruiting or admitting, right? Now, these are the counseling important dates that have come to all of you who've taken the VITEEE examination. What are the counseling dates? 8th May is the start of the counseling date. So all of you would have got some letter and you're already reached there. The phase 1 ends on 11th May. The phase 2 ends on 18th May. The phase 3 ends on 27th May. The phase 4 ends on 6th June. And the phase 5 ends on 17th June. As you have seats, they move to this phase 2 and phase 3 and phase 4 and phase 5. In phase 1, it's up to 20,000 rank. Phase 2 is 45,000 rank and all. But remember, the start date for all of them is 8th May only. All of you, the counseling process started on 8th May. It's only that based on the phases, The phase 5, it will end on 17th June. So till 17th June, you have an option of getting something or the other. But if you get something in between, you must exercise the option of taking it or leaving it, right? And that is what we're coming to. Of what are your options that you must exercise is what you will be looking at based on the placement numbers, right? Now, what is the choice filling? So once you get it in phase 1, 11th May is the last date. 12th May, you actually have to do a choice filling. The choice filling would be of the college, the campus you want, the branch you want, and based on that, they will allocate the tier, which means the fee you need to pay based on the rank that you get, right? Now, the tier is slightly, the information is hazy of what score gets you what tier is something very, very hazy for us, because again, we try to grab, ask for that, and then there was a bit of resistance in terms of giving that information. Ideally, what would you do? If you go through a JOSA counseling, you know that at this rank you get this. In this particular case, you don't know at what rank, which tier, which campus, which branch you'll get. And the biggest variable here is the tier, which is the amount of fee that you need to pay, because the fee varies from about 2 lakh rupees for a same student sitting in the same class to 5 lakh rupees, paid by another student sitting in the same classroom. This variable fee structure is what complicates matters in terms of your decision making, because if you're looking for an ROI, that ROI is not forthcoming unless you calculate these numbers very correctly, right? So this you already got it, and 27th May is the last date for payment in phase 1, 10th June for the phase 2, 19th June for phase 3, 1st July for phase 4, and 4th July for phase 5, right? Now that is what you're dealing with, and seat allotment happens. You already got that, so I don't want to repeat that. Now let's understand what is the kind of placement we're talking about. By the way, within this, we talked about the tiers. Group B is all the CSE and everything. Group A is largely the core and everything that you have. So Group A is slightly lesser, about 50,000-60,000 rupees lesser in terms of fee structure as compared to Group B. So I'm not complicating matters again, because Group A, Group B, multiple campuses, multiple branches, multiple tiers is becoming very complicated. So for a moment, I'm removing the Group A, which is core, which is about 50,000-60,000 rupees lesser, and then having a conversation with all of you, right? In Group B, you actually have everything to do with CS, electronics, and mechanical. Everything to do with these three, actually, if you notice it, right? Now, what is the fee structure that you have for Group B? The category 1, which is up to a rank, and I think it's up to rank 2000 is what they claim, is 1.95 lakh rupees. Right, 1.95 lakh rupees. In category 2, which is about, I think 3,000, 4,000 is 3 lakh. So again, this tier at which a particular fee has to be paid is not disclosed upfront. Each of you get a letter, and that's how it works, right? So 3 lakh 4,000 for category 2, 4 lakh 2,000 for category 3, 4 lakh 45 for category 4, and 490 for category 5. Right, that's the fee that you're talking of. So what is happening here is this student is paying 2.5 times of the category 1 student, though both of them are sitting in the same classroom and learning exactly the same thing. Your merit decides the amount of money that you pay as fees, or your performance in the VITEEE examination determines what kind of fee you pay in the classroom. Now that being the case here, and we're only talking of Group B, Group A is slightly lesser, but the ratio is similar. The ratio is similar, and by the way, this ratio also depends on which campus you choose, which branch you choose, and so on and so forth. So a Bhopal would be still, everything would be coming here, but Vellore students will be paying a lot of this side. In Bhopal, a lot of students will be paying this side only. Amravati, somewhere in between. And that is what seems to be happening. Now, when we looked at last 3 years placement data, so obviously when you know that you need to pay 5 lakh rupees, for example, as fees, 4 years you pay 20 lakh rupees, and we're not talking hostel and all, which we'll talk as we move along, then the question comes in saying, at 20 lakh plus hostel and all, which makes it about 30 lakh rupees all put together, including all the other incidental expenditure, what is the kind of median salary that justifies a 30 lakh rupee kind of a cost? And that is what we're trying to address here, right? Now, when we look at placements here in VIT Vellore, this is data that they themselves submitted to Government of India, so I'm going to talk about that, right? Here, in 24-25, the total students admitted was 12,873, graduate was 11,913, place was 7,023, higher studies is 1660, placement is 68.5%, after removing this 1660, which moved for higher studies, right? And the median salary is 6 lakh rupees. I find it a bit alarming that the 8.99 lakh has become 6 lakh here, but that can be answered or responded to because the number of students here is far dramatically higher than here. So whether they showed something lesser here or whether they showed something higher here, I don't know that. But I know for a fact that as the number of students that you have to place keeps going up, median salary would keep falling because a bulk of these students would be placed in some of these ITS companies which offer extremely low salary. In fact, the salary has not grown for the last 10 years or 15 or 20 years also. So that is still a challenge that we're dealing with, right? So this is a placement. Now you work backwards of about 20 lakh rupees as fee, 10 lakh rupees being the hostel and mess and other expenditure, 30 lakh rupees, and median salary being 6 lakh rupees. Your payback is 5 years. Now that is a question that you must take. So you have 1.95 lakh rupees student, which means that he's paying 8 lakh rupees, he or she is paying 8 lakh rupees, plus add another 10 lakh rupees, 18 lakh rupees. This is 2.5, 3 years, and then keep moving forward. By the way, I'm only talking about median. There will be highest also, there will be super dream also, and all those things. You must take that, and if you're a very good candidate, then the opportunities that VIT University offers is extremely good because very, very good companies come in for placement. Many of them offer 20 lakh, 30 lakh, 40 lakh kind of package also. But we're talking of a median salary here, that's the number that you're dealing with. Now, we also try to look at the AQAR, which is actually a filing made by the institute, and we could only find it, which is slightly 2 years back, which is for the year 23-24 is what we find, right? Now, what it does, it's an annual quality review that happens where they file documents of what kind of, there are multiple things that they file on, and one of them is placement that happened at the institution. There we could find a total number of about 3,700 students whose, companies where they were placed and the kind of salary that they got was also shown there. When we looked at that data, and this is all for, academic year 23-24, what we have, for example, you take Btech Mechanical Engineering, this is the kind of document that we have. We remove the names, but the kind of salary that was offered by JSW Group, one of the companies that came for placement. This way we have for all students, all companies, all salaries. And that is what we try to compile and collate and put things together so that you can actually take a fair view of the whole thing. When we looked at that, for Btech CSE, there are 1,320 students who were placed, the median salary being 9.34 lakh, and this for 23-24, mind you, where their median salary that I showed in NRF document also is 8.99 lakh. If you go back to the NRF, again, I want to repeat that. I think it's important for you to understand that. When you look at this NRF document, in the year 23-24, 5,964 students graduated, 4,031 students placed at 8.99 lakh rupees being the average salary, median salary. So they themselves claim about 9 lakh rupees being a median salary. Now let's corroborate that with the 23-24 data that we have of the AQAR. Now the challenge that you have there is, it shows data of only 3,700. Now what happens to the balance, we don't know. The intake is smaller, the graduation has smaller, one doesn't know that. But we have that data. So when we looked at the 23-24 data and then try to put that against AQAR, 1,320 students were placed of CSE at 9.34 lakh median salary. ECE and biomedical was 7 lakh, mechanical was 7 lakh, IT was 10 lakh, EEE is 7 lakh, CSE with data science is 10 lakh, CSE with information security is 9.15 lakh, CSE with AI and ML is 9 lakh, CSE with Internet of Things is 10.25 lakh, CSE with AI and robotics is 8.26, CSBS is 9 lakh, CSE with cyber physical systems is 8.99, CSE with blockchain is 10 lakh, ECE is 7.55, chemical is 6, biotechnology is 4.76, CSE with bioinformatics is 9.15, electronics and instrumentation engineering is 7 lakh, civil is 6.5, mechatronics is 9, EC with biomedical is 7 lakh, mechanical and automotive engineering is 8.5 lakh, and production and industrial engineering is 5 lakh. This is a median salary that we found. There is also this column of highest salary, but the most important thing that you must notice is this 3.33 lakh that you talk, 3.33, 3.3, 3. All this 3.3 that you're talking of are people who are placed in TCS, possibly 3.33. So there are, if you notice, because TCS, when they come in to recruit, they don't recruit one single branch. They conduct one test and recruits in bulk. And there, the minimum salary would invariably fall down to 3.3 lakh because TCS only offers 3.3 lakhs. There are few which offers slightly more and more, but bulk of the students who they take is a 3.3 lakh. So you will notice that all these people, whatever branch that they've done, They've been placed at CSE, including people at Btech360 and AI and everything. They were placed at, TCS or at 3.3 lakh rupees also. And there's a higher salary also, you can look at that. Average also, you can look at that. Right? Now, when you look at this particular thing and move to the next one, we also broke that into, bands of how many were placed at less than 5 lakh, how many between 5 and 10 and all. We realized that about 13% of the students are less than 5 lakh, 47% are between 5 and 10 lakh, right? 27% in 10 to 15 lakh. And by the way, these are 3,736 numbers only. Remember that? Because we don't have data of the others. And I keep telling you that as you keep removing the bottom, the median keeps going up, the average keeps going up, everything keeps going up. So we don't know that because the intake is for sure more than this, which is what they themselves claimed. But we don't have data of the kind of placement that you're talking about, right? When you looked at 3736, 27% is 10 to 15 lakh. So having said all those things, they also get fantastic offers. People have got 50 lakh, 60 lakh, 40 lakh of kind of offers also. Like the 20 lakh plus offer, there are 265 of them, right? 15 to 20 lakh, there are 219 of them, right? 10 to 15 lakh, there are 1,016 students who got 10 to 15 lakh kind of an offer. So that's still a very, very sharp thing, very solid thing that you have. If you're a good student, if you really work hard, if you have a good CGPA, you can land up there. While I'm talking the median salary, we are talking about the median salary, there is also a chance that you will actually have doors opened up for a 10 lakh and above kind of an offer, which most of the students, about 35-40% students got it out of the 3760, which might not be a complete universe in itself, right? Based on that data, when you look at that, VIT Vellore campus-wise placement, when you look at it, and by the way, so that we talk branch-wise. Now let's look at campus, company-wise. TCS took 567 of them, where the higher median is 3.3 lakh, average is 5.38, and they also paid 9 lakhs also to a few students. PwC took at 8.99 lakh across the board. Accenture took at 11.89 lakh across the board. Deloitte took 7.6 lakh at across the board and 8.26 lakh also, and so on and so forth. This is the kind of payment or salary that is being paid by the companies at VIT. So you actually have Deloitte, Bank of America, Eon Group, Tata Technologies, Visteon Corporation, Genpact, Deloitte, KPIT, BlackRock, Caterpillar, L&T, Mu Sigma, SAPM India, Vedanta, Schneider, Bosch Global, JSW Group, Honeywell, Shell India, Trust Vista, Wells Fargo, UPS, Oracle. So that's a limited number of companies that I'm talking about here. Now, just to put things in perspective, we took TCS example of how the salaries were dispersed. When we looked at that, of the 567 students that they have taken, 306 students got 3.3 lakh, 196 students got 7 lakh, and 65 students got 9 lakh. That's what you need to be understanding. So what we have at this point in time is 567 students in TCS who are employed by TCS of the 3,736. Remember that 3,736 is not a complete number. We must I'll always keep flagging that because we don't have complete data of all the students who passed out in that year, of which 306 students, or more than 60% students, about 60% students got into at a 3.3 lakh, 196 into 7 lakh, and 65 students even got a 9 lakh offer. Now, moving further, when I look at the placement categories that they offer, right, this is the normal jargon that is there in VIT University. You actually have a regular offer which is less than 5.5 lakh. So we actually have a regular offer, they call it. Then you have a dream offer, which is 5.5 lakh to 10 lakh. And there are separate rule sets for that, by the way, when you want to go in dream and super dream offer. 10 lakh and above is super dream offer. Again, there is some kind of a rule set and some kind of payment also that's there possibly. And the students also call something called a marquee offer, where the fees, salary that you get, CTC that you get is more than 20 lakh. That's the 4 kind of offers that you're getting. And I've already shown you of the range that you have in the earlier slides earlier, right? Now, so that's the placement part of it. Now look at the mess. The other expenditure, we talked of the fee structure, which is about 1.95 lakh to 4.95 lakh for Group B, right? Now let's look at the mess, other charges that you have. Here, the fee for a 6 non-AC, including veg mess, is 1.42 lakh rupees. Now, if you keep going down, it goes up to about 2.16 lakh rupees for 2 AC and special mess. So the range is about 1.42 lakh to 2.16 lakh, right? Now, that is what you're dealing with. Now, if you're dealing with this as the 1 year fee, then overall, you can actually add another 6 lakh rupees just as the mess and everything for a 4-year BTech program, going up to about 9 lakh rupees. right? So that also we added, because ultimately when you want to calculate ROI, you need to understand how it works out or what works for you at what fee level it will work for you. Now, when I look at that data, you actually say in category 5 where the fee is, I'll just jump to group, this group A, by the way, we actually have group A and group B. So group A is largely core engineering and group B is largely CSE, mechanical and anything to do with electrical and electronics. So when you look at group B, the fee is 4.95 lakh rupees per annum, which totals to about close to 20 lakh, 19.8 lakh. And we took the lowest hostel, which is that 1.42 lakh wala. We did not consider 2.16, but I have considered the lowest one, which is 1.42 lakh, which leads to 5.69 lakh rupees as a total fee in mess and hostel fees. In all, you're dealing with 25.49 lakh. Add other incidental expenditure, you'll deal with 27 lakh rupees at the highest thing. This would be about 23.69, so it will become 26-27 lakh rupees, because the range difference between these three is not much. It's only 4 lakh rupees all put together, less than 4 lakh rupees, right? So when you fall into this ladder, where the fee is 22 lakh, which means all expenditure being 25 lakh rupees, so 25 lakh to about 28 lakh rupees, 29 lakh rupees, when you look at that. And then if your assumption that you will get the super dream and all, it's very, very good. But if you're getting that median salary, then this becomes a question mark, because we're dealing with about 25-30 lakh rupees as a fees and the median salary of 6 lakh rupees and the placement percentage being about 70-75%. These are the three variables for you. You need to understand where does your child fit in this entire matrix. The matrix can say that if my child is a tier 5 category paying student, my assumption would be at the CGPA level also he or she will perform similar, because you would have, ultimately certain things move in a certain direction unless something dramatically different happens. In which case, there's a greater possibility that people who are paying higher fees will also land up at a lower median salary because of the CGPA difference that we're dealing with, because we're essentially assuming that a similar level of scores across the board in class 12, in VITEEE and JEE and whatever, and later in CGPA also. Now, you can always break this entire glass ceiling and say, listen, I might have been, 100,000 rank in VITEEE in the VITEEE rank, but when I pass out, I'll have the best CGPA. That's a possibility. One is not discounting that. But if you have to deal with this in a very linear way, then the student who is paying the highest fee possibly would also land up at the lowest cost, lowest salary. Now, I'm not generalizing, by the way, I'm just saying this out of my own understanding of how CGPA functions and how students scale up and move on to a different level. But what I notice is this, that if you're getting into tier 1, tier 2, for sure you must take it up. If you're getting into tier 3, you must evaluate options of what you have. If you're getting into tier 4 and tier 5, just be extremely sure that you're going to work hard, your child is going to work hard to get something else if you are very keen on the ROI part of it. If you're very keen on the ROI part of it. My only warning that I always tell students is, always, while you're pushing your child to get the best out of them, you should also be prepared for what happens if the best doesn't happen and if the worst happens. Which is, and when I say worst, I'm talking about only at a score level, by the way, nothing else. Remember that. At a score level, let's assume that if he's in the bottom half of the class, I'm not even talking of the bottom 10% and all, I'm talking the bottom half of the class, what do you expect? The bottom of the class will get a median salary of less than 6 lakh rupees. And at less than 6 lakh rupees, at 30 lakh rupees that you're going to spend, is it worth it? That's a call that each of you will take depending on your ability to pay for your child. It is your call ultimately. My job here is to put the matrix together for you to understand that the fee range here, if you carefully look at that, is between about 13.5, 14 lakhs plus 3 lakhs, about 17 lakhs to about 28 lakhs, 29 lakhs. At 17 lakh and at about even 20, 21 lakhs, it might still make sense. But when you keep coming down the ladder, if money is not an issue for you, you must still go ahead because it's a very good university. It's one of the best universities that you have in the country. But if money is a consideration for you, there's a great possibility that because the student is paying such high fee, obviously he is very low in the merit. His rank is very, very high. His or her rank is extremely low. And to that extent, you're likely to get also a possible CGPA, which is lesser, in which case your median salary would also be lesser. And that is something that you should be prepared for. In which case, you should go, decide for yourself of how to deal with this. Again, I repeat, this is not a report card of what your child is about to do or how VIT would react to it. This is actually stating the fact of what happened in the previous year, so you can decide based on what happened in the previous years to decide for yourself of whether you should take it at what price and at what branch in which campus. Because the variables here are 4 of them. The group A versus B, the branch that you will get, the campus that you will likely to get allocated, the branch you will likely to be allocated, and the fee you will likely to pay. And each of them is a definite variable, and one variable amongst each of the 4 can actually destroy your ROI metrics. In that sense, what we put together is a data of different years, of varied years, not perfectly symmetric to each other, but still what we could gather is what we could put forward. I hope you can make some sense out of this data and still decide for yourself what is good and what is bad for you. If you need any help, please write to us here in the message box. We'll be happy to take care of it. If you want to talk to any of our counselors, please message us on the WhatsApp number. I'll be happy to talk to you. And please subscribe to Btech360. Thank you so much. Namaste.